Members of the public may be heard on matters for council consideration, not on the agenda. And we have Sue Melfi of 31 Vale Place.
Yeah, you can all come up.
Yeah.
Why don't you, Dave?
Please identify yourselves
Sure.
as you speak.
Okay, I'm Karen Lake of 17 Vale Place. So I don't know who's aware of this or not, but we have a dog issue on our street, and we're at the point where we don't know where to turn at this point. We've called the police so many times. I myself, my dog was attacked on January 20th. I was not on their property. I was walking out of my house with my dog on my leash on the street when their dog charged off their property, attacked my dog. I'm screaming. Linda Brown calls her dog back, and the dog goes back. I was terrified. It's a huge black shepherd that I thought was going to actually really hurt my dog and then myself in the process. But this has been going on for years on our street. So I called the cops. I've been down to the precinct before. We need clarification on the law. And I think the police officers also need clarification on the law, because what they tell us is different at different times. And we're just frustrated at this point because we don't know where to turn, because we're afraid something serious is going to happen. People have been bitten. Dogs have been bitten. Children have been bitten, but we don't know where to turn at this point.
Can you provide a little bit of little context to what the options are? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to respond. Is that all right?
Yes, please.
So under our local code, dogs that are not on their own property have to be leashed unless you have the off-leash permit for Rye Town Park. On private property, on the owner's property, or with permission of another person, a dog can be off-leash. Under the Ag and Markets Law, New York State law, there are certain other provisions that require the owner of the dog to always be in control, whether it's through a leash, voice command, or something else. Under the Agriculture and Markets Law, there's also a dangerous dog provision that allows the victim to petition the local court to have a hearing. It's called a dangerous dog hearing. And that is a determination that is made by a judge within a very short period of time. And at that point, the judge, if the judge makes a finding that the dog is dangerous, can institute a range of remedies, from muzzling the dog in public to requiring obedience classes for the dog, to even providing or forcing the dog to be housed elsewhere. But that is the legal mechanism that victims of that, such as you described, can avail themselves of.
So the incident happened, the dog was off their property. I was told by the police officer he gave them the law, and that was it. So there's no ramification on their part that the dog came off their property and attacked us. That's where the frustration comes in. And this is not the first time.
Is Kopi here? Yeah. Commissioner, do you want to, not to put you on the spot too, but I just want answer. We're looking for answers.
Good evening. I hope you can hear me. And so,
Commissioner, can you go to the lectern too, where there's a microphone?
I don't mean to turn my back to you, but
no problem.
I apologize. Good evening. So first, I apologize that the police department is unable to meet your needs. But unfortunately, the police department is literally handcuffed here. We would like to take action, but the state law does not allow us to commence a criminal action for a matter that's considered a petty offense, and that's what this is. And so there is what I would term outstanding evidence. I received this, I reviewed it, there's certainly nothing wrong with it, and clearly shows a dog running off the property, barking, and running back, at least in that matter. That said, similar to leaf blowers, these matters, petty offenses, have to be witnessed by an officer. This is not something the Rye Police Department controls. This is nothing I can do. This is the criminal procedure law that requires an officer to personally witness the matter before commencing criminal action.
So please, it's your time. I'm going to ask you a question.
I moved on to Vale Place in 2015, and I have myself and my dogs have been charged by their dog. I understand what you're saying, and I have called the police, but if you've ever seen an aggressive dog charge at somebody, and I've been told, like, we need to witness it, it happens in a heartbeat. And by the time you call them and they come, and I've suggested, like, park yourself on our street and you will see. I mean, I think the problem is that they lie to the police and they say their yard is fenced in. I understand that the law and the rule is that they're allowed to be on their own property, but the dog leaves their property. It has bitten children. Numerous children. You know this. Anytime you talk to anybody in the department, they're like, we know Vale Place.
What I would recommend, and I'm happy to talk this through with you, I believe the commissioner has spoken with some of you about this, but I can walk you through what you can do in terms of petitioning the court, the local court, for a dangerous dog hearing.
Is there a way to amend the city, whatever it is, the code, to ensure that, if they're on their property, that they're not able to leave? I know you can't make somebody put a fence up, but a way to restrict the dog from being able to leave the property, and there to be fines if they can.
If a dog leaves the property, and it's running at large, and the officer observes that, then the officer could perhaps just exercise his or her discretion.
It's near impossible to get an officer to actually see it, unless they're camped out on our street.
So
Kristen, if I may, you said there's a fence on the property?
They have a fence in their backyard, but they continue. So the dog bit a 12-year-old a few months ago, and the Browns went to the family and said, we will never let the dog off leash again. And I have on both Ring camera and on my phone, a week later, the dog off leash in the street, and people walk by and the dog is aggressive. And
the state concept is you have to have control of your dog.
Well, I think Kristen was just about to go through the process for you.
If I may, is control something that we can make or that can be interpreted as tangible? Fence, electric fence, electronic fence, whatever you call the buried things. Is there some imposition of control that is permissible for us to try to place on these people? Or is control just left to their assertion? Well, I tell the dog to stay and the dog will stay. And obviously there's evidence to the contrary.
So under state law, and I will confirm this, but I believe they have, in a way, preempted this area of the law in terms of you have to have custody and control over your dog. It can be voice control. It doesn't have to be leash. It doesn't have to be in a fence. And we adopted that same language for Rye Town Park for the non-leashed area. I will take a closer look, Mayor, at whether there's some type of home rule message. Maybe we can get to further define that. But then, we're getting into the area of, what we can tell a private property owner to do with his or her property.
And as we've discussed it really sounds as if your best bet is to just go to city court and get the city court behind you, because that will really go to the essence of your complaint. What I'm talking about, some greater means of control or exerting control, there's no guarantee that your neighbor who owns the dog is actually going to make that control work any better than what's not working now.
So can we get you?
There's two. Kristen, can you continue on with this track that you were about to go through?
Well, I'm happy to speak with you. You can get my information off the website. happy to meet with you, happy to walk you through what you can do in terms of petitioning one of our local judges in Rye City Court. And like I said, don't quote me on this, but I believe that dangerous dog hearing has to happen within 3, maybe 5 days. It's a very expedited proceeding because of the nature of the potential harm. But ultimately, it's a finding by the judge. And you can put whatever evidence you want forward. You can put your own testimony forward, but you in sense are the witnesses as part of that.
Commissioner.
Can I just add, and just the law is very clear that any witness, not just necessarily the person who has been attacked, so if somebody witnesses it from afar, they can do it. Also, with regards to the court, you should know that I had corresponded with one of your neighbors, and I had told him, oh, hi, nice to meet you, sir. And as I had told Dave, that, the police department understand and is concerned, we're willing to go and testify, we're willing to provide copies of reports, so whatever we can do to support the process. But back to the problem here is that we cannot commence the criminal action ourselves. The law does not allow it. The only thing it could change, we could make rules to have people bury it in, but so long as it is considered a petty offense and not a misdemeanor, and I'm not proposing to make this a misdemeanor, but that is what allows the officer to do an investigation and then say, I have probable cause to issue a summons and commence that criminal action.
Commissioner, the categorization as a petty offense, I think you've said, is a matter of state law that we follow.
Not entirely, Mayor. If I may, I apologize if I said that. But the petty offense is based on the city code considering a loose dog to be punishable as a civil penalty in the criminal court, right? And so within the state law, it considers that type of conduct as a petty offense. It's below a misdemeanor, similar to a traffic ticket, similar to a violation. And that's what prevents us from issuing a summons there based on an investigation. It is something that has to be personally witnessed, and I agree. It is almost impossible. It's not almost, it is impossible. Right. And so to be fair, but there's 6.6 square miles in the city. I have maybe 3 officers working at any one time. We want to pay attention to it. We want to do that. It's impossible. And if the officer can find it, the officer will write a summons. Right? And so that's not the issue there. And I think we can go back a couple of years ago where leaf blowers were non-enforcement. We started working on it. We did it. This is just difficult because you can't be there at that split second. So,
if I can just add, so I'm a father of 2 young daughters. I have to play with my children in the street with mace because the dog runs off, and I can't play in the street. I agree. Like, the police can only enforce the law as it's written. If I know there's a larger discussion around what the off-leash dog laws are, if I can offer some suggestions as that discussion is happening. One, I think the fines need to be made much more meaningful for repeat offenders. I believe that they've paid the fine multiple times, and it's $50, and it's if they even get caught, it's okay, whatever. I think video evidence should be allowed, or at least multiple eyewitnesses. The fact that we can submit a video of a dog attacking someone and nothing can get done is crazy to me. I total respect for the police, but I don't think the law has been enforced consistently. I believe that attack happened. There was no citation even issued. I get it that it wasn't. I guess the officer didn't see it in person, but I don't think the law has been enforced consistently. And I also think that, to me, this is an issue that probably goes beyond the dog. I'm not a lawyer, but I feel like there's something here that this is beyond the dog, and it's a matter of the owner's repeated recklessness. And then finally, I hear your point around initiating the in court. However, I think that opens for us for retribution from the owner, which I think puts the person filing the claim in a very uncomfortable position as opposed to it being filed from the police, which is, I think, the hesitation from the block, as the family is an attorney.
Well,
And I've already
And
experienced.
also regarding us moving forward in the court system, we're not looking for something to happen to the dog. if that makes sense. We're looking for the owners to control their dog, and we don't want to get in a situation where if the dog has to be put down or something, none of us want that. We're all dog owners ourselves. So besides retribution, which would come from them, we don't want anything to happen to the dog. We just want them to control their dog and contain their dog.
Yeah. Maybe something that a judge can help impose. So I would, just given the fact that the law is what it is and Commissioner Copey and the police are operating within that law, I would just say as a next step, because we want to try to find something, you take up the offer to meet with our corporation counsel and see what that process would look like and how it can be done.
Well, definitely. We'll meet up to see what the process is, and if we want to move forward,
Yeah.
that would be helpful for all of us. Yeah.
Josh, I just want to, before, I agree, but I just wanted to add this. What was your name?
David.
David. What was it?
David Cotton.
David Cotton. I actually think that there might be some reasonable something, Kristen, that I don't want to, where we can look at issues of fines, repeat offenses, those kinds of things. I don't know what exists in our current leash law and if there's any room for that, but I don't want to ignore that suggestion.
I'm happy to revisit what the fines are. And if the council wants to change and increase those fines, that's certainly the council's jurisdiction.
I think there are a couple of things to just break apart here. So one, you have the situation. I read your letter that you guys sent today or yesterday, and I was concerned and had questions about what's the guidance given to the police, and appreciated having explained that the penal law limits the way the evidence works. So you have the first forum, which is on the scene, and that's very frustrating because, as I think has been acknowledged, it's impossible to catch anything in the act. Even if we doubled the police force, it would still be impossible, right? It's just not going to happen. So you have video evidence, and there's a forum for addressing the facts of what has happened and dealing with the owner and the dog and however that might work out, and that's the courthouse. This body is here when the law that we have doesn't work to draft new law. What we have right now is a situation where the law is there. The forum for imposing the fines and whatever other penalties and actions might come out of that is the courthouse. This is the place that can say, okay, well, even when that's imposed, the fine is only $50, or there are other options for what we can do in terms of control. That's the bigger discussion, and then you have to think about all the dog owners and all the different permutations of that. I live around the corner from you guys. You have an immediate problem that you need to solve. You've raised some things for us to think about, but there's a forum that can help you solve that immediate problem. I appreciate the frustration and not wanting to be a litigant and all of that. But we hear you, and we're a legislative body that has certain tools that it can engage in a discussion about, and that could take some time. But you have an immediate problem, and there is a place that could help you, and I encourage you to work with Kristen and learn how that works. And you may be back here and say, we did it, or we didn't do it, or it does this, or either way, you still need to look at this, this, and this, and I would encourage you to write again and keep us posted. But there's what we do and what they do.
Is one of you Karen Lake?
I'm Karen Lake.
Okay. I also had your signage.
Come as a team.
Okay, well, thank you all. I'm sorry that we can't offer something more immediately helpful.
Thank you.
Yep. Commissioner, thank you. Brian Jackson, you didn't provide a sheet, but I understand that you have to. You did?
I did. I believe number 11.
Is there another signage sheet over there?
Didn't come up, but you need to leave?
If it's okay, just briefly, I
I know there's a lot of celebratory things here tonight, but I want to just cover one thing quickly if I can. Brian from the Chamber of Commerce, and thank you for hearing me quickly. I know number 11 on the docket here is a proposal to raise the increase of the hourly parking fee downtown. And obviously, as the president of the Chamber of Commerce, talking to members of the Chamber, employees, obviously they are against it. That's kind of a given. But some of the questions that have come up are, has there been any dissemination of this proposal to the public? And has the public been given any time to comment and respond? The next up would be, is there any specific amount projects that would be taken care of by the raise and increase in parking fees? And if you could disclose those to us, because there's certain things that I think people kind of want to have taken care of. And we all love the lot behind Chris Fields. Everyone loves that whole lot, there. And we also have the brand new lot behind Ruby's, and that's a fantastic piece also. But Car Park 1 behind, let's say June and Ho back there, is parts of it are pretty brutal. In addition to the fact that a lot of the parking pay stations quite frequently don't work in those areas. The new app that has been put into place, if you park for 1 hour, which is $1, which is not probably unreasonable, the convenience fee is 45 cents. That's a 45% increase on your 1 hour parking, and now we want to raise fees on top of that. And I think for people who go to shop downtown for a small amount of time might be untenable or quite bothersome. And I understand it's quote unquote convenient, but that seems to be a little bit excessive for people who park there. And if there is any increase, would there be any consideration for those who have merchant parking passes or their employees who park down there? That would be something that we would hope might be addressed. And finally, if these things aren't public knowledge or there hasn't been any information put out about those sort of things, is it possible to put off that decision until those things happen, made public, and there's been time to review them and time for the public to comment on them? That would be my simple request. And, as a resident, as a Chamber of Commerce president here, and as a hungry person, I'm going to keep my time short, and I thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Do you want to move it up, Josh, and talk about it now, or do you want to wait?
There are people waiting for a bunch of other things, so
Okay.
I want to leave it where it is.
Jerry,
Jerry,
happy to table it.
That's what I was going to offer.
Yeah, can we just do that?
Could we just agree to table it to another meeting and create that time?
Yeah.
Super. Yes.
Okay, I'll move to table. Julie?
I've seconded the.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll be very brief. Jerry Seitz, 141 Kirby Lane. And I'm here to talk about lights. Christmas night, Sue and I will come down Purchase Street. And there was only a single car parked. And the lights were absolutely fabulous. And I think we've all enjoyed them. And so I'm here just for a very simple thought. I believe that the impetus behind that was in part created by April, May, and June, the Weber sisters, who then gave us a delightful November, December, and January. I think this is fantastic that somebody in Rye has done this for the benefit of the entire community, and I think it would be appropriate for the city to acknowledge that and thank whoever was behind it and put that together. So let's continue that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jerry. And Jerry, just to, yes, they did help with the things in the trees. The chamber actually funded some of the lights, and the city did. So it was actually a really nice team community effort making downtown look
But
spectacular.
I think I think it was April, May, and June who
they started, and then they
started.
And they started the things in the trees, and then they did fundraising. Yeah. So a lot of people in the community donated to that effort, which is awesome. A lot of
people wrote a check. But the thing is, that's exactly what we should be trying to encourage in the city of Rye. And when people have taken the effort to do it, I think it should be acknowledged, and we should thank them. I mean, let me tell you something. Appomattox has a thing. It's called the governor's acknowledgement or something. And it's something that's sporadic. It's not every year or anything of the sort. But somebody who has done something for the community is acknowledged and honored. So I think that was my recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks.
Anyone else for the maybe heard section?